Lots going on here, man.
Man, do we need to have a moment of silence?
Oh, about the game?
Yeah.
Um, no, I kind of expected it. Who would have thought
Really?
a senior laden team? Yeah, they've been falling apart. I don't know what's going on.
That's very un-Badger-like.
Yeah, I know. And there's 4 seniors starting, and none of them are stepping up. It's kind of weird.
Man,
But we're gonna get in the
senior.
tournament.
Yeah, that's true. It's all about the tourney.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, I think we'll go in there probably like way, way under the radar. Maybe they can pull a couple together and get to the Sweet 16 like they have, I don't know, 6 out of the last 10 years.
Oh, God, living in the past.
Last year. Yeah, I know. Anyway, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's just there's a lot going on. I condensed that whole game, like fast forwarded like through a lot of it, and so I didn't even really watch a lot of it because I've been busy.
Oh, you were. I gotcha. I didn't know you were watching it live. So,
Nah. Nah.
well, you guys lose. If that's any consolation.
Oh, is it over?
No, it's not over. But
No,
you're
I
down.
just yeah.
You're down 7 with 118. I'm gonna say it's over.
Ooh, wait a minute. I'm not giving up.
You should give up. Probably.
Not giving up, man. That's like
Yeah.
anything. Like Will says, don't trust your mood at any time during an Ironman.
That's true. This is very, very, very true. So, how is the Banksy stuff going?
It's going well. We're releasing on iTunes Friday, so I'm doing boatloads of social media videos and things like that right now.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you're a fan of the podcast and you might, have an appreciation for art, Saving Banksy is on pre-order on iTunes right now. And I
Pre-order.
assistant directed, edited, wrote part of the movie. So yeah,
You gonna hook me up? I mean, do I have to pay for it?
well, I'll see if I can figure out how to pay for it for you.
No,
Or
I don't want you to do that. Maybe.
I can reimburse you, or I can let you watch it
Nah,
at the
nah.
house.
Whenever I get to Nashville, can I just do like the like the uncut version, like at your house, and like the actual, like
Yeah, you can watch it on
yeah,
the timeline.
yeah. See, okay, I'm in for that. It's a much cooler experience for me.
In fact, maybe we'll have the podcast listeners swing by sometime this summer. We'll all watch the movie, and then we can preview the Crushing Iron documentary that's in the works.
Yes, yeah, and I can take clients for some one-on-one swim work in the above ground pool.
There you go. The bands.
Man, yeah, we can make a whole weekend out of it.
Yeah.
Iron.
Crushing Iron. So the documentary's in the works. I've been working on it a little bit. The journey of 5 guys and a coach going towards Ironman Wisconsin a few years ago. It's pretty good stuff. So if anybody's interested in that, send us an email, crushingiron@gmail.com.
Is this 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you want to give a little teaser?
Sure. Yeah,
I mean, not necessarily be a teaser, but I mean, I think a lot of our listeners obviously, have came to the Crushing Iron blog or the podcast, without kind of knowing of its humble, more personal beginnings and
yeah.
how long ago it was. So I think it'd be cool to kind of give them a little backstory.
Sure. When was that? 2013.
13.
Myself and 4 other guys started training together for Ironman Wisconsin later that fall. And you were our coach in the beginning. And from the start, you coached us all. And we interviewed each other all along the way. And we were all I had never done one. 2 of the other guys had never done one Ironman. And 2 of the guys had done a couple. But we were all different stages, all different age groups, different types of guys, but all friends. And we interviewed each other all the way through at different stages of pain and pleasure. And it was kind of fun, and there was a lot of angst and a whole bunch of stuff like that. But when we got done, I thought, well, I'm not sure this really is that interesting because so many people, do Ironman. It isn't like just in that sense that it becomes interesting. But I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so, I started reflecting on it and what had happened to everybody since then. And in fact, almost within the year after the race, A lot of so there was like 6 of us involved, and all 6 of us went through major life-changing events within a year of Ironman. And in some ways, I guess we're going to explore the hypothesis that maybe training for Ironman was an impetus for a lot of these changes and things that happened. Kind of rediscovering ourselves or getting into stuff and going down roads or whatever. So I think there's a lot of interesting things there because it literally impacted us all majorly.
Oh, I mean, I just know, I mean, that thinking about the five of you, I mean, especially, I guess, you and Jim mostly, like, and even Ketman, like,
Mm-hmm.
the major life events that followed in those next few months were, you know, drastic. I mean, just super, I mean, just like total 180s. And, mine obviously was like a couple 180s.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
it's a
it's
whirlwind,
gonna be,
to say
yeah,
the
a whirlwind.
least.
But it's gonna be, yeah. I'm looking forward to kind of resurrecting that and just seeing how, um, it impacted our journeys. And for me, I know that, that's what made going back to Ironman Wisconsin, this last year so special, for me, because it was, I got to kind of go back to, and revisit kind of like because November of that year is when I started, obviously, to start really going through some major transformations in my life.
Yes.
And so you're talking, September, October. You're talking like just 60 days prior. I was there in Wisconsin, and Allie was there with me.
Mm-hmm.
And just I was looking back on it the other day with her, and it was just like, man, like how much, in ways, our life has changed since then. And then getting to go back, and do Ironman and be in Madison under just with like a totally different life circumstance, and with Hayden there. And yeah, I mean, just it's crazy. I'm very much looking forward to watching it. And although I hate that, like that, well, I'm sure the interview I do now will really show people, compared to the interview I did then, in my Wisconsin Badger sweatshirt.
Yeah.
How, yeah, I think those two images alone will probably speak volumes about my my life change. But yeah,
Yeah. Everyone involved has gone through, I think, major changes,
yeah.
and through some rocky roads of. There was some separation among the group, and I think in a way, uh, time has healed a lot of things. And in all seriousness, though, if you're out there and you're an executive producer type person that's interested in triathlon, I think this is a really good documentary. If you want to get a hold of me and maybe discuss potentially getting involved, um, I have, I've just completed a documentary, and this one I think is in its own way just as good. The documentary that's out now has been picked on the New York Times critics list. So we've got some good things brewing here, and so yeah, just get a hold of me if you got any thoughts about it or questions, or might want to get involved in some way. You can do that. Um,
Awesome stuff.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, in all honesty, we could probably talk about that journey, as a full podcast, and it would be
Oh
really,
man.
we're not going to do it today, obviously, but yeah, I think that if we kind of reflected on that and went back and just looked at the lessons, everybody kind of learned, and the hard roads we all went down to get there, I think it would be pretty interesting. Um,
Oh, I think, yeah. I mean, I think just a couple of stories alone are interesting enough to, um, kind of make it riveting to where you kind of want to continue to watch and listen. Yeah, great
hmm
story though.
Yeah. Hey, I was thinking about what we were kind of texting about yesterday, at least for part of this, to talk about. And when I got back with when I was saying, because I haven't been doing a lot of running, and yesterday I went out, and honestly, I went out to probably look into 6 or 7 miles max, and it was one of those days where I was under control, and I felt like I was breathing well, and I wasn't going too hard. I was just trying, so I ended up going for 10, and it felt really good and, like I said, breezy almost. And the first thing I texted you was, I think swimming might be one of the most underrated assets for your running, because I've been doing a ton of swimming and hardly any running. But yesterday I felt like I hadn't missed any running, and you of course responded with, you agreed to that, but you had some other thoughts that I thought were pretty cool as far as how the other sports reflect on the others and things like that.
Yeah, no, I'm totally in that camp, and I always have been. And I sent you that equation that I kind of take as, swimming for me, swimming benefits swimming, uh, cycling, and running, in my opinion. Cycling helps cycling and swimming and running, and then running for me just helps running. That's generally why I'm also a huge advocate of like swim heavy, bike heavy Ironman training. It's because I believe there's a really happy medium in that blending of the benefits you get from swimming and cycling that transfer to your run while keeping it no impact. So if you can swim more and greatly improve your swim and just and minimally improve your run, and if you can cycle and bike a lot and greatly improve your cycling, and then minimally also, in addition to the swim improvement, improve your run performance, and then also work diligently but smartly and carefully in your running, you know, you're improving in all three without really sacrificing or maybe not sacrificing is the right word, but I would say endangering your overall training load with running, because it is the most often injured aspect of training for the sport. And it's the one that can derail you for months. It can ruin a season. But it's funny because you texted me that yesterday, and I had another athlete who texted me, I don't know, maybe the day before, and he said, best, longest run I've had since Lake Placid, which Lake Placid was like last July. And you know what he's in the middle of right now?
Is that Blake again, the swim the suck training?
Yep, he's in a massive swim block. And I said, yeah, it's vital and it makes sense. And people don't think of it that way. And for me, what I responded to you was that yeah, it's like running is more total body, but it's also obviously a lot of force. But you use your arms, you use your core. I mean, the core is probably the most not underappreciated, most underdeveloped aspect of people's running, that they just kind of don't pay attention to. They think I can just keep running and not pay attention to that. Well, swimming, obviously, if you do it the right way, and in the way that I kind of prescribe my athletes with a lot of pull buoy and band work, that also obviously increases your arm strength and fitness, but also your core,
Mm-hmm.
which is incredibly important to running.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing I've noticed yesterday was that, well, I've always heard too that you need your core. Your core is very important for running, but running doesn't develop your core. And
Exactly.
so I've been doing a lot of that swimming, like I said, and it was one of those things where it wasn't just, I felt like core strength. I think that's the obvious one, and along with, if you do a lot of swimming, obviously you're going to be in cardiovascular pretty good, lot better shape. That helps a lot with that. So my breathing wasn't as hard, but I also noticed, because I've been working on our techniques that we talk about and how to not suck at swimming, and it's my cadence. And so I almost felt like all that work I've done in the pool with the cadence and the trying to be just, almost like that. It's maybe a dumb analogy, but I've heard it used in running. Is that like tank tread that kind of just keeps churning? So you just think about it in terms of I always think about it in terms of a metronome, and your hands hitting the water at the same time, or on the same beats, just one after another, without, because I think also too, at least with me in swimming, what slows me down is that I have a tendency to drag my weak arm. Is that pretty common? Probably, I bet.
Oh,
You,
it's very, very
yeah. So
common.
you're
You see it all
very,
the time.
my right arm is strong going out, and then my left arm hesitates just a little bit, throwing off that rhythm. And I think that can hold true in your running too, with your weak leg, on some level. I mean, this is real small stuff, but I think it's big in the overall balance of your run. If you're overexerting one side of your body on the run, it only makes sense that over time that's going to start throwing off form and everything's going to get harder. So I thought about that rhythm thing a lot yesterday while I was running.
Yeah, I mean, rhythm is running is totally rhythmic. It's you can go out and just feel really really great, but you have to feel great top to bottom. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if something else is lagging, or your back, or you're slouching, or even your arms are fatigued. I mean, everybody that's listening that's done any kind of a longer distance race, like when you get to at least for me, like when you get to the marathon, or even the half marathon on a 70.3 or Ironman, my arms on the run are super fatigued. I mean, you see people shaking them all the time. You see people shaking them on just a long run.
Yeah.
It's because you got to hold your arms at the angle the specific angle you want them to generate the most power and help with your inertia going forward. Well, the more tired they are, the more they're going to slouch. And when your arms slouch, your shoulders slouch, and then that just you kind of collapse from the top down. In my opinion, you don't collapse from the feet up. Um, and swimming is one of those um, events, and that, or not events, but are one of those disciplines that you can really help yourself by cross training, and it's just a great active kind of recovery tool. In my opinion, especially for the way that, like I said before, that I coach it is, long run on one day, and the next day, might call it a recovery swim, but if you use a pull buoy the whole time, you're saving your legs. A little cold water immersion helps with recovery anyway. You're moving the legs around, help move that kind of lactic acid and soreness out, and at the same time get the same benefits from your swim.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, same, and obviously not the same exact thing, but the recovery bike. I got on the bike a little. I was getting on the bike today after that run, and I mean, I didn't. I got a little upset about the game, so I got off and whatever. But so talk about that a little bit. The recovery on the bike after a run too. I mean, is that just sometimes you'd like to assign maybe an hour and a half, just sort of easy spinning?
Yeah, I mean, I'll usually prescribe just like an hour active recovery ride, and usually it is like 6 to 8 hours later in the day. You get up early in the morning, you do your run, and then you get kind of stiff. Get stiff and stiff and stiff and stiff as the day goes on, and
Mm.
then just getting on your bike, whether it's outside or inside, not even looking at power or cadence or any kind of a data point or metric, and just keep the easy spinning, and just to kind of keep flushing out all of the damage that you did earlier in the day on that run, and help move it out, because that's all it's doing. As your blood is moving things in and out, trying to dissipate all the waste that you created that's going to make you more sore. And it might be painful at the time, but the next day you will feel infinitely better. You think about if you've done a Saturday race before, and you drove back like the same day, and you just sat in a car. The
CC,
next
dude, he does that a lot.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, we know he's like coined it.
So he
He
had
he
somebody warm his car up on the last mile.
Yeah, I've heard that he doesn't actually change out of his race kit until the first pilot truck stop. And he gets in and takes a shower, and after he kind of cools down a bit after the race. But you drive after the race and you sit still all day. You let that blood pool, and there's just not enough blood flowing to move the damage out. Whereas you walk around or do something, like that's the first thing I tell you, that the day after an Ironman, get up and move. Don't take the day off.
Mm.
I even prescribe, like, for athletes after they race, the next day you do something. The day after that you can take a day off, but the day after it, do something. Take a long walk, take an easy spin, flop around in the water, just get moving.
Is that when you're okay with the expo? The day after?
Absolutely, I'm a huge fan of the post-race expo walk.
Okay, yeah, 'cause that's a good one.
Now, I'm not a huge fan of the line that is usually created if you want to buy merchandise, but walk around, do some, whatever, meet your fellow Ironman, you know, newly christened Ironman athletes.
Yeah.
But yes, by all means, get moving. Go see the town, go sightsee. Just get moving. It's every the greatest triathletes, the most seasoned veterans. The next day, you always see them out doing something.
Hmm.
Getting moving, loosening it up, because once it gets stiff, it's only going to get stiffer, and the
Yeah.
only way to loosen it up is it's just gonna hurt even more.
Yeah. Not cycling, right? We don't have to do that, right?
Uh, I mean, it's
Walking or
always
swimming.
yeah. I would always say swimming is the best way to go.
It just seems
Swimming
but
is my yeah is the best for recovery, in
yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good idea. When you go to that expo, man, what questions do you ask people when you see them the next day?
What questions do I ask people the next day?
Yeah.
You know that I'm much more of an introvert
I
than
know.
you are. Yeah, so I tell people this all the time. I'm definitely not a people person. I am I
Come
am I
on,
am
man.
I'm not. I'm much more of a person.
Oh,
I,
okay.
I like one-on-one conversations. I like authenticity. I like meaningful dialogue. I'm like the worst person ever at like a social event where I don't know people because if I don't know you, then I'm sure as hell not going to talk to you because what do I have to talk to you about? You might be like a horrible conversationalist and want to talk about something that more often not you don't even really care what I'm going to say. You just want to talk about yourself.
Oh,
So
man.
I just kind of keep to myself, and people kind of think I'm a prick sometimes because I just don't talk to people. But
You're just
you know,
shy.
yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm shy. I would say that I am calculated, reserved.
Calculator reserve. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just it's not my thing.
No. Okay.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
not my thing.
So,
The other topic I wanted to somewhat address would be the benefits and the improvements you can see in participating or racing in an event in a non triathlon event during the year,
oh, yeah, okay.
or just I mean, obviously, I'm doing something like that this year, and I have other athletes that um, have kind of not taking I wouldn't say taking the year off triathlon because they're all racing. They're just doing a bigger focus.
Okay.
Uh,
Before we get
is
into that, can I'm sorry.
y-
I'm sorry. I
Go ahead.
really am. It's just it sort of applies, and this is from an athlete to a coach. This is a real question I have for you.
Okay.
Um, Ironman Chattanooga 70.3 is May 20th, and the country music half is at the end of April. That's not too close, is it? You'd suggest, or
It's is it 4 weeks?
yeah, I think it's 4 weeks.
You're close. I mean, generally speaking, I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 6 weeks is a little bit better because you get a good recovery week and one more block and then go. But I generally wind people down and start to limit their run anyway, getting closer towards the event and do more cycling. So, for you, yeah, I mean, if you want to do it, do it. But, you know, 4 weeks is close.
Yeah, it is.
It's a little close to. Well, it depends on what your goal is. Are you going to like, burn a match, strike a match, or just see if you even have a match?
Well, I don't know. I just thought I was planning to do one half, and maybe I'll have to find something else. I'll just do something else a little earlier. I feel like I'm kind of getting closer to being able to run a half. I mean, I could
Yeah,
do a half, but you know what I mean. Like
yeah.
I'm gonna race it. You know me. I'm not
Oh, I
gonna.
know. That's my fear.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
Is that
train through it like we
yeah,
discussed last time.
and that's why I think 4 weeks out is a little much.
Okay. Now back onto your.
Yeah, back to our regular schedule program. It yeah is there are, especially this time of year you have a lot of athletes training and racing like you just said for some kind of a half marathon or an early summer cycling like a century ride that's a really big event or a little longer of a running race or even some people of a swim race and I just think it's important to note for those of you listening that I think by all means you should get out of your comfort zone to focus on something non-specific to what you're actually focusing on.
Okay.
Because I think you learn a lot. For me, I'll just kind of give my example. Like, I know that for me, obviously, this year, I think overall, I believe it helps your motivation, because anytime you can learn and focus on something different than you're usually either preparing for or you're shooting for, and you go after it year after year after year, your motivation can kind of become stale. And you get into this rut where you're not really done learning, but you kind of think you kind of understood where you're going and who you are within like your athlete life cycle. And diving into a different sport, either altogether or a different event altogether, forces you to kind of revert back to kind of square one and think, all right, hey, what characteristics do I have that are good for this? Then I can apply from what I've learned in triathlon, but it also kind of makes you self-aware of how far you've come. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? For me, for example, when I've been doing this Leadville training, it's totally different from basically from any other training that I've always done. But I had somebody ask me earlier today, it's like, do you have a coach for this? So I said, no. I have a few people who have gotten some really, really good advice and guidance about, but I know myself better than anybody.
Yeah.
And I have a really great basic understanding of what needs to be accomplished and how I can fit it in my life, and the things I'm really good at, and especially when it comes to something like running, where you get longer and longer and longer, and it's one of those, it's the danger zone. For Leadville, they say like 750 people get in, at least 100 won't even show up because they're hurt, and then the other half won't finish because they weren't prepared enough. And I had the same athlete text me and say, what do you think separates the ones who don't finish to the ones who finish? Do you feel like they just have no business being there? And I got to thinking, I was like, well, first of all, I have no idea. I have no idea why these people don't finish.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll get a very, very, very clear idea of that when I toe the line. But for me, it has kind of reinvigorated my how in depth I want to get into making sure all the details are covered. My training is precise, because it's new. And so I think taking that same application to in-season triathlon training, whether it's a swim-only event, a long century ride, a running event, or trail run, whatever it may be, forcing you to kind of make you feel like a beginner again,
Yeah.
I think is a good thing, because it's humbling, and you get to kind of go over things that you don't just kind of go through the motions. Like, I don't even pack for, like, make a list to pack for an Ironman anymore, and I just kind of show up and go. Well, for this, like, it's total opposite. Like, I need to be detailed and research this and research that, and talk about new methods of training, and it keeps you very, very engaged. And over a long season like triathlon, I think it's important, and it's often really, really, really hard to stay engaged.
Yeah.
Anytime I deal with a first-time Ironman triathlete, I tell them, I said, listen, you're much more likely to get emotionally and mentally burnt out long before you get physically burnt out.
Sure.
If you're listening to this and you've done an Ironman, you know that at some point, if not for one, if not for all, you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I just want to get it over with.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to, I wish I could do it tomorrow and get it over with. And it devalues the journey and the process and the ultimate accomplishment you're about to have by just like, yeah, just let me get it out of the way. It's like you're getting ready to take exams. I just wish it was tomorrow. I'm tired of studying for it. Like, is that the person who's really going to ace it? Probably not.
No problem.
More likely than not. No. I mean, I wouldn't know anything about that, but more likely not. It's a person who's saying, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. I'm prepared. And just think that balance between new and intrigue and just keeping you on your toes athletically and just keeping yourself more self-aware of strengths and weaknesses can really help you throughout the course of a very, very A, long season, B, total life cycle of an athlete, because your journey and your improvement as an athlete doesn't stop on December 31st.
No.
Even though a lot of people treat it like that, it continues to grow. So I think it's very, very helpful. And I know for me, just these past 2 months of training have been very, very insightful for me.
Well, in a way, triathlon is it's sort of multitasking, and you know how that can, if you're not, how that can wear your brain down in a sense. I mean, that to me is always the biggest challenge is keeping all three sports kind of up to par, and you're just always letting one go. You're always letting one fade away a little bit, and you got to run and catch it up. It's like juggling in a sense. And what you're telling me is if you have something big and you can kind of just dive into it and be focused on something new that's exciting and go deeper, it's going deeper into the actual event, the you know into the, I don't know, depths of one sport versus kind of dabbling in all three, in a way.
Yeah. It brings. I think it just continues to bring everything into focus.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, because triathlon can be so confusing. I mean, if it wasn't so confusing, I probably wouldn't have a job as a coach. Which is why I love it, because it is so much give and take and push and pull, and load this and deload that, and how you blend that together with the athlete and their strengths and weaknesses. And for me, I know that my experience so far with Leadville has really taught me about fine tuning the details that I often overlooked because my own training was so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, strength and conditioning and just general injury prevention work. No thanks.
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't have
Yeah.
time for that. Do I have time for it? Sure. But it was my lack of attention to detail. It's like do the really, really, really small, like the greatest athletes on earth. They do the really, really, really small things great.
Yeah.
And they do the most important things even better. But you can't just ignore the small things and expect to do the big parts of it great. And like the other day I found myself doing like clamshell exercises in an empty gym for injury prevention work, because I've been doing injury prevention once a week, and then either doing just regular strength conditioning, or I've been doing a lot of downhill conditioning. From everything that I've researched and read about Leadville, is that it's the reason a lot of people don't finish is because they can't, or they won't, or they just don't train enough for the downhills,
Yeah.
because it's a eccentric motion. Okay, so running downhill is you need a really good shock. Going up the hill, you need a really good spring.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different system to work, totally different system to define or to refine and to perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing eccentric movements and things that I haven't done in either A, forever, or B, ever. But I'm doing them because I know the smallest detail will matter.
Yeah.
And I just look back over my triathlon career, and it's like, what give and take did I have to where I just thought some certain details weren't as important. But it's not so much a time thing, it's just understanding the importance of those small details that translate to every event and every sport.
Yeah, and think about how much, assuming that all goes well and you train right and you do your strength and you keep flexible and you don't get injured and come through that. Think about how much better of a runner you're going to be next year.
Oh, I've already thought about that.
Yeah. So, I just think it's because it's one of those things, because you grew up swimming, so swimming comes
Yeah.
easy. So that's a
Yes, it
it's
does.
you do train hard for it, but you could probably get away with it on depending on the if it's a downstream. You know what I mean? Like you could.
Oh, come on,
It's
not
just
even. Yeah, I mean, honestly,
well,
I haven't swam since Wisconsin,
yeah.
and I could probably get in the pool tomorrow and drop like a 120 or 11500.
Yeah. I mean, you might be just
My second one might be like 220.
yeah, I was gonna say you might be a little out
Yeah.
of winded, but the
Yeah, but no, no.
motion, the experience of the body and the skeletal, rehashing of that all up and down, the repetitiveness of it, and we talk about all that time. I mean, you're doing extreme frequency in running, and that's kind of my, I think overall game plan a lot is that's why I do these like uh, extended bursts of a few weeks of swimming, or I get really into cycling for a while because cycling is sort of my background, so it comes naturally, and it does. I can get away with a lot, in a race. I can maybe not train as hard as a lot of people and just get away with it. And that's how you can do it for swimming. And I'm sure natural runners that grew up running the same type of deal. So you're going to have that run a lot more dialed in next year. Obviously, your swim's there. And, so if in the cycling, maybe that's another. If you got time to spend a long year on focusing on some heavy cycling races, I think those kind of extended training focus things really pay off in a confidence perspective too, and
Yeah,
just a
totally.
natural understanding of how to do it in the race.
Yeah, I mean, it just there's nothing more valuable than experience. And I'm already seeing like some really really solid, run gains. My long runs right now are almost are very very close to the peak that they were all of last year, like leading up to Wisconsin.
Really.
Yeah, I had a really really great long run this morning. I did 19 miles, and felt just really really solid. So everything's going well, but again, it's that attention to detail. It's listening to my body, and it's all things that I know that I can apply, to the next thing that I do. The details matter. Um,
Without a doubt.
yeah,
Without a doubt, man.
the details matter.
All right. So I got nothing.
You're done? Yeah. Well, no, that's all I had today was change of pace and swimming, and the advantages of swimming, for running. And I'm gonna hop off here and go tell my mom goodbye. Mom was in town this weekend,
Oh, tell her
and
hi,
I
please,
will.
before
I'll
she
tell her.
leaves.
And she's heading back to Nashville, so I think her Uber's on the way. So I'm gonna go tell her to say bye, and then we'll be back on Thursday.
Yes, we will, with maybe some cycling action.
Yeah, yeah. Part two of how to not suck at cycling.
Okay, it's a deal, buddy.
It's a deal. I'll talk to you then.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Yep. See ya.
Later.